Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
And we are going to go ahead and get straight into this, because Hatman and I were actually having a pretty good conversation in regards to something. We're going to start off with entertainment. We're not going to, play the usual game. For those who don't know, the Overflow is basically where we talk about the questions that we sadly were not able to get to during the podcast, and we also go a little bit more in depth on things here as well. So let's go ahead and get straight into entertainment. Audis Whisperer asked on thoughts on Rebel Yell issue 2 getting taken off by Indiegogo's Trust and Safety Council. Doesn't look like my kind of comic, but I still think it's a BS that this happened. So this is very reminiscent of, and Hatman and I did a little research before this episode. This kind of smells like what happened to Vox Day's Alt Hero Q. Now here's the thing about Alt Hero Q. Vox Day was not going to write that. And to be honest, I don't think Vox Day is a very good writer. I think he's terrible. I don't understand why people give him the attention that he gets, aside from the fact that his fan base is mostly white identitarians. But when I look at, we did a little research on the guy who did this Rebel Yell thing. Kind of guy that gives Southerners a very bad name. With that said, does that necessarily, is his book racist? Is his book promoting some sort of idea of actual legitimate white supremacy and or hate? And that's the real question. Because this guy, Hatman, you said he was saying some pretty positive shit about the former guy, the guy who created the KKK here.
Well, he responded. There was a tweet that was going around after Trump had praised Robert E. Lee, and somebody said, "Oh, I see we're talking about great generals," and posted a picture of William Tecumseh Sherman, who is not a very liked figure here in the South. And this dude responded with a picture of Nathan Bedford Forrest, the General Nathan Bedford Forrest, who later on founded the KKK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not good people.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, Lee wasn't exactly too fond of what they did after the war either.
No.
And understandably so. Lee seemed to be a man of honor. A good man for his time. Yeah, you judge him in a modern moral lens, you're going to look at him differently. But if you look at him for the time, he was a very, very, very different man than what you would have expected the leader of a rebel force to be. Mm-hmm. But he and Stonewall, I think, probably would both kind of be thrown into that category.
Yeah. Stonewall Jackson also has a good reputation here in the South.
Yeah. But
I mean, Stonewall Jackson Day is often tied to MLK Day down here. So,
but the thing is that, I mean, the guy got what he needed to publish it. 18 backers, $541. Not exactly a big comic, And it's the second one to have one of these fringe right, alt-right authors, I use the term very loosely, to have their comic shut down by Indiegogo. And according to John Delarose, now John lies like it's a second instinct, so you can't really, I could throw him pretty far, but I don't trust him nearly as far as I can throw him. He says that the lawsuit is going excellent. We've heard nothing about it. Him saying that doesn't mean anything, but there is indeed a lawsuit. You gotta see the truth between the lies with that guy. Vox Day is suing Indiegogo over Alt Hero Q being canceled. Whether or not there's any success there is a big question mark. The thing about it is that you have to ask, does the platform set a proper standard for their own rules? If the answer is no, if it basically says, or does not spell out plainly, what exactly qualifies as being against the rules, there is no way to know what the rules are, and the rules can change without the rules changing, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you can walk around, and then the next thing you know, it's gone.
Yeah. So it's sort of like what happened with Patreon.
Yeah.
Sargon's Patreon got banned for things that he didn't do
on the platform,
on the site. It was not in their terms and conditions. And then recently they updated their terms and conditions to say, oh, by the way, we can hit you for things that you do off-site.
Yeah. Now, that makes me wonder where the line gets drawn. Now, and also makes me wonder exactly how many profits Indiegogo is willing to lose. Because Indiegogo does take a cut of your crowd fund. Not a huge cut from what I understand, but a substantial one. And Alt Hero Q got $120,000, I think, in funding. More, probably sold over 1,000 copies. It was more than fully funded. And I would probably imagine because of Chuck Dixon. You attach a name that big to that kind of a project, and you're gonna sell copies. Chuck is still a big name in comics. He's a legend, and for good reason. He's ridiculously talented. But where is the line? Is going to be the question going forward. Because if the line is set and they are simply not allowing people that could be conceived as alt-right and legitimately alt-right, like they see like former members of the KKK as good people. They promote white nationalism. They promote white nationalist terrorists like Vox Day did. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe me, look up his words on Anders Breivik. If they are legitimately doing those sorts of things, and that is the standard, that is a pretty clear-cut standard. But is it really? Is it set? Because what happens when this Trust and Safety Council decides that white supremacy, white nationalism, separatism, these sorts of things are all right, but then they add stuff into it, like say somebody who supports traditional marriage, like Doug TenNapel, or just people who voted for Donald Trump, like Ethan Van Sciver. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that they would be hesitant to do that because Doug and Ethan and the Brightweisters and our boy Zach made a lot of money for them over this last couple of years. A lot of money. Millions. Millions! So, that is my question to answer the question. What is the standard? Because I'm not going to lose tears over shitheads being banned from something. They should still be able to discourse in public. I'm not saying throw them in jail. I'm saying that if people don't want to do business with them, that's the market. Mm-hmm. Because this is business that we're talking about now. You do not have a right to publish everything that you want from any publisher you want.
Right.
You can... Vox Day says he's the king of making his own platforms. Let him do that. He's more than welcome to have his own platform with all the Nazi flags and butt-fucking he wants. I don't care. I won't interact with it because I have the choice to not do that. Everybody else does. But if your site is constantly shifting the goalpost, you're going to lose business. So that's basically what I'm wondering is where does it end? Yeah. I would be genuinely tempted, and I might do this before we launch our first campaign on the Indiegogo, because that is the platform I will go to. Because Kickstarter has a lot of problems. Yeah. But I will launch on Indiegogo, and that is one thing I'm going to ask them. I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to say, where can I find the standard here? It's rather obvious I'm not going to run into the same issues because I don't have a fucking character with a rebel flag on them. And I wouldn't because I'm not a Southerner. So, and not to mention the main characters of the 3 books I'm working on, only one of them is white, and the only reason that he probably is white is because the story is set in 13th century England. Not a lot of black dudes at that time in that area. No. So, that is my answer. Anything to add on that one, Hatman? I think we pretty well covered it.
Nope, I think we've covered it.
Yep. So, yeah, not losing any tears, but it does make me wonder if they're starting to boil the frog. Because everybody knows my stance on the alt-right. It's this. Fuck them.
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
People you're associated with shoot up mosques and synagogues. I have no reason to think that churches aren't going to be next.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Entertainment. Okay, Swordsman 100 wants to know, in an earlier podcast you said that Venom was a good monster movie. With this in mind, who is your favorite heroic monster? Venom. He's my favorite fictional character ever. Like, duh.
Were you expecting a different answer? Venom is a good monster movie. Who's your favorite heroic monster? Naturally, Venom.
We are Venom.
We are Venom.
Hatman, what about you? Favorite heroic monster?
You know, to be a little bit contrarian, just so I don't have to say, yeah, I totally agree, I'm going to have to go with Swamp Thing.
Good choice.
I like Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
It makes my heart sing.
The Alan Moore run is incredible. Very fucking incredible. Is that show even going to get made, though?
I think so. I think it's up next on.
Well, I think the DC streaming service is in danger of getting just like canceled. It didn't do as well as they thought it was going to.
Well.
Which sucks, because I heard Doom Patrol was really good.
I wouldn't know.
Not to mention,
none of it.
I am legitimately interested in the latest season of Young Justice as well. It's just I'm waiting for my financials to get a little bit more stable before I start subscribing to a bunch of streaming services again. Right now, I'm just rolling with Amazon.
Yeah.
All right. Incel Mafioso wants to know, anti-SJWs are the new SJWs. I keep seeing this phrase propagated by former skeptics. Is it true, or is it just shills finally showing their true colors? I'm going with the latter. Ouch. Considering I just did a video saying something similar. All I say is that don't make an accusation without evidence. And I legitimately think that a lot of people have made accusations about wokeness lately that were thin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have noticed I don't make thin arguments.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, too, is trying to get ahead of any sort of potential social outrage.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a form of performative outrage that we see SJWs get into. Mm-hmm. Except for this, it's almost like trying to get a scoop. Mm-hmm. I'm way ahead of everyone else on this one, so I can rake in the clicks and stuff. And
yeah.
I've seen some YouTube channels, not going to name names here, that engage in that sort of thing. But when it comes to this sort of accusation, the anti-SJWs and the new SJWs, it reminds me of that retarded ass fucking reaction image that was used back in the Gamergate days of the fucking San Francisco dude wearing the mask. He's like, hey, don't you think anti-SJWs are just as bad as SJWs? It gets posted every fucking time somebody tries to make the argument of, hey, you're kind of acting like the people that you fucking hate.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. Anyway, no, I think there's a lot of qualities that people are starting to adopt that are SJW in nature, and that shit, that needs to stop. Like, don't rally up the fucking outrage cannons for some piddly little shit like what was it, boner culture? The fucking Mortal Kombat thing with without any sort of fucking skimpy clothes like that. That alone, that's not fucking worth it. When somebody tries to morally posture themselves as positive for women and marginalized people for it, then you can fire up the fucking outrage.
Absolutely.
Don't do it for dumb shit.
Just because a character is no longer wearing a thong and pasties does not mean that it's censorship.
Yeah. When Sony decides to start censoring out butts and stuff, okay,
that's different.
Don't jump on that just yet. And then when the policy comes out that yes, this is all intentional for whatever reason, okay, yeah, then start jumping on.
Yeah, exactly. Wait for evidence to come out is basically all I say.
Yeah, it's like how you react to a mass shooting or something.
Yeah.
You don't get outraged and start demanding all this shit happen or say, oh, I bet it was, this demographic that
Yeah, we get on
that,
Democrats for jumping the gun for gun control.
Yeah.
Pun totally intended there.
Yeah.
All the fucking time. I don't assume that if you're changing the design of a character that it's necessarily censorship. Maybe you're going for a different look or a different artistic direction. Like, one point that I made in the Mortal Kombat thing is, like, there are outfits that Katana and Jade and a couple other female characters wear that are, their butts are hanging out. Mm-hmm. And there's also ones with, like, Power Girl style cleavage windows. Still look very sexy, just in a different way. I'll be on. We did the dark and the comparison of dark and edgy on the podcast. If your characters, like, not that I have a problem with Frank Frazetta paintings, but if they all look like they're coming out of a Frank Frazetta painting and you're not telling me a Conan the Barbarian story, I think you're being a little edgy. And Mortal Kombat, like, I'll be honest, Mortal Kombat 9 was, some of the designs were edgy as fuck. Like, that game was, like, very edgy compared to 10 and 11. Yeah. Now, it fit. It was still a fun game. Don't get me wrong. I love 9. 9 is fun as fuck. But some of the designs just have not aged well. Katana, Jade, Melina, Scarlet all look like strippers.
Scarlet especially.
Yeah, they look very bad. And here's what makes it worse. If you look at the women, they are not built like women. They are built like men with tits. They're traps. So for those of you who have been,
means.
And traps are gay, guys. But no, seriously, like, they don't have female pelvises at all, except for Melina. Melina is the only one. That's because they actually made it a part of her design for her to have a big butt. She's the only one who looks more feminine, and she's the one with all the gangly teeth.
Clone of Katana.
Yeah,
but with a bigger ass.
Shao Kahn, we salute you. You get the Vanilla Gorilla seal of approval. That's gonna be a shirt. Has to be.
Shao Kahn is an ass man?
No. Vanilla Gorilla seal of approval.
Oh my god.
That's Elusive Swede. That's your next assignment. We're doing it. We're gonna do it. That's gonna be great. But anyway, in all seriousness though, it's like, I looked at those designs lately when Maximilian was streaming the game, and I'm like, women look kind of rough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in 10 you see the improvements. They look like they're built like women. They have hips, they have busts, they have butts, and so on and so forth. They look much more feminine that way. And in 11 they look very feminine, but they're not. They obviously trim down the bust sizes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, athletic women don't have big busts. They don't. They'll have butt, because that's a muscle that's going to get naturally worked out. But you guys got to keep something in mind. And every single woman that I have ever met in my life, you have to keep in mind, I have 4 sisters, I've been married, and I've had several girlfriends. Every single woman will tell you, when you start to lose weight, your boobs will get smaller. Why? Because they're 2 giant sacks of fat hanging from their chest. Mm-hmm. When you exercise more, they get burned off. It's just how the body works. So if you're gonna have a more athletic woman, it's very rare that they're busty. The only one that I can think of that has real breasts, like a mixed martial artist who has a bust to her, again, that's not fake, is Kat Zingano. Even then, you compare her to who's an actress that's known for her butt, Scarlett Johansson.
There you go.
Scarlett works out and stays in Hollywood shape. She's not in fighting shape, because her curves would start to disappear. Her butt would probably stick around, but her breasts would shrink. Same with was in Desperado. Not good. Oh God, what is her name? I used to have such a crush on her when I was a kid. To the Google. What is her name? Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek's a very naturally chesty woman. If she worked out like a Ronda Rousey, her boobs would get smaller. It's a rare thing to see a woman that has a bust like that, that's athletic. The only other person I can think of is there's a professional wrestler, goes by the ring name of Bailey, who is a very naturally curvy woman. Who's like, she's like one of the few that I can think of that is natural all over and is still curvaceous, even though she's in ridiculously. The woman has a six-pack. It's a very rare trait. So I don't mind if you're going to go in a photorealistic direction, you go that route. And I had some people say that the men all look like bodybuilders. I've got some names for you, for those of you playing the home game. Junior Dos Santos, Alistair Overeem. I'm trying to think of guys who aren't currently on the roids. Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou is another really good example. Mirko Filipovic, or Mirko Krokop, he's also known as. Those guys are really good examples of heavyweight fighters who are built like brick shithouses. It's just a build thing. Randy Couture is another really good example. So, it's not uncommon. So, anyway, enough of that argument. Point being is that I think that people tend to throw the term woke too much, but at the same time, yeah, if you're just basically saying, you're all acting like what you don't want to be, you're virtue signaling. There's a fine line. Sensibility is what I ask for out of people. It's just be sensible, and be willing to listen to counterpoints.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things when I was a writer at Blistered Thumbs. I could tell in the comments when somebody had never played a game. It's because they would trash it, and it would be line by line something that a content creator said. So, one of those little insider tricks is you can tell who somebody watches by their comments on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's actually pretty crazy. And oddly enough, I'm not the first person to, I think, make that point. I think Alpha Omega Sin said it on Twitter, something that really bothers him. It's like, play it for yourself, man. So, love Alpha. He needs to do more videos. Okay.
Yeah.
Gojira asks, do we think that EVS, we need more apolitical entertainment? How does that apply to conservatives trying to create stories that represent their values? Well, here's something that I mentioned this. One thing that a lot of people don't know is when I had Brett Smith on the podcast months ago, Brett and I talked for another 2 hours after we went off the air. And we kind of had a nice little back and forth. I have a lot of respect for Brett. And, I think the feeling's mutual from what I can tell. And with Timothy Lim and those guys, is that I love what they're doing with cautionary comics and things like that. But, I think I'm of the belief that, and I think that other people that I respect and people who respect me will agree with this, sometimes when you create something, even when you don't pursue the political, some of your values are inevitably going to come through. I didn't realize that the main characters of the 3 stories I'm writing were all Christians until today. I did not realize it. It just completely went over my head that all 3 of them were Christian. And I'm like, interesting. So what it told me is that at some point I might create an atheist character just to flex my muscles, to try to think outside the box. But I didn't. But I think it's just something that naturally bled through. It wasn't something that I aimed to do. It just made sense to me. If you're going to be religious here in America, there is a 66 chance that you're probably going to be a Christian. There's a 20% chance you're probably going to be Muslim. There's a 10% chance you're probably going to be a Jew. I don't know if the math all works out there. I think it just came to 90%. So, regardless, though, that's likely what's going to happen. Actually, probably 70% you're going to be a Christian, some denomination. So, when I want a character and I want that dichotomy, that's going to be the religion I go for because it's the one I know most about. And then after that, it would be a Jewish character, because I know quite a bit about Judaism as well, because I've had conversations with rabbis and participated in Passover and stuff like that back when I was in college, which very enlightening thing to do. for young Christians. Trust me. Very enlightening. But no, I think that it just is something that bleeds through naturally. I think that when you try to make something political, oftentimes it can come across as cringy unless you're doing like a loving parody. And that I think is what Timothy Lim and Brett and Chuck Dixon are the masters of. And Mark Pellegrino as well. They're the masters of it. They are phenomenal at it. Like everything that I have read that they have done, which is just Thump, The First 100 Days, My Hero Macadamia. I think it's just those two. I haven't had the chance to read Trump Space Force yet. Which, I'm sorry, guys. I legitimately forgot to back it. I feel fucking terrible. But they're all good. They're funny. They have character. They have personality to them. They're not necessarily about promoting. It's about just telling a story from a certain perspective.
Right.
I've never really... Those guys are more on Donald Trump than I am. On the Trump train than I am. They're like right at the front. I'm more at the caboose, just hanging out and having a drink. Like, I like Donald Trump, but there's some things about him I disagree with. They're all in, you know? And I'm kind of in. Just chilling out. Acting like I'm cool in the back of the drink, in the back of the bar car. But in all seriousness, though, like I don't think that they're like propagandizing or anything like that. That's the worry, because you do that and then you compare it to America Chavez. Sad gorilla. Like that was miserable. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? I remember my buddy David. I was reading one of those books when we were at work one night, and I showed him a couple pages. He's like, "Why do you do this to yourself?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have issues." Pun totally intended. So, yeah, that'd be my thoughts. Hatman, what do you think?
It's kind of weird. Like, can you write a story that represents your value and then call it a political? And now with the moralizing of politics more and more, it seems like even your moral values are going to be considered, politicizing whatever the hell you're doing. So I really don't know, but I would default back to what we usually say anyway. The focus should be on making good stories instead of political content. If it has a political bend to it, gives a shit. I mean, it's just like V for Vendetta, for example. I mean, that kind of glorifies anarchism. I am by no means an anarchist. I absolutely cannot stand the idea of it. I don't think V for Vendetta is a damn good book. And Alan Moore is a fucking nut. So.
Yes, he is.
Damn good writer, but my God, he's crazy.
Oh, very. Oh, goodness. All right. Let's move on to politics. So, Koopa's Revenge Home wants to know, who would we like to run for the presidency in 2024? Nikki Haley.
I would like to see her. I want to see Ted Cruz run again. And I want to see if Lindsey Graham 2.0 continues. Because holy shit, that would be incredible.
That would be something. I have nothing to add to that.
Nope. We'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Yep. Autis Whisper wants to know thoughts on the Tory party in the UK losing 1,300 seats after local elections. Clearly protest vote, but demonstrates how spineless conservatives have become. Well, yes, they promised Brexit and they didn't deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And that's.
But it's and somebody from across the pond, correct me on this too. It also seems like people aren't automatically falling into labor snap either because of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what happens when you fuck the dog.
Yeah. Because Labor's trash too. Labor's beyond trash. Labor's the Communist Party at this point.
Yeah, labor is led by a fucking an anti-Semite on top of that.
Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn's a scumbag.
Yeah. Fuck him?
Oh, yeah. Actually, wait. For Jeremy Corbyn, we have another button.
Oh, the big button.
No, just the Jew button. Jew! Somewhere Hard-Boiled Entertainment, who is one of my favorite fans of our shows, is probably going, God damn it, really?
Oh my god. Oh, that's great.
Personally, the Jew button's my favorite.
I love the Jew button.
It's hilarious.
I love all of the buttons. I love all of the buttons.
Yeah, they're awesome. All right. And Incel Mafioso has a question that ties into that. Thoughts after the UK local election, UKIP lost seats. Will this be attributed to Sargon? I don't know, but as much as I like Carl as a person, I am of the opinion that he really, really, really needs somebody who knows politics better than he does, at least in how to run a campaign, managing his campaign for him. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say this is he has stepped in it a few times. And I understand not apologizing. But I also understand... but I also don't understand playing the game and playing your cards, or not being willing to play the game, not being willing to play your cards properly.
Well, that's the thing. You have to beat the smear merchants at their own game.
Yes.
You don't give them what they want, and
there have been points where he's tried to recover from a gaffe, and it just has not worked. One example was he made the mistake, because I don't think that Sargon is an anti-Semite at any point. I think that when he said, I don't care about your Shoah, I have no reason to believe that he actually legitimately does not care about the Holocaust. He's not Richard Spencer. He hates Richard Spencer. You know,
it's a rhetorical device is what he's doing there. But of course, it comes across as I don't care about the Holocaust.
Yes, because the wording is fuck awful. If you don't want people to play identity politics, you focus on the things that unify them, specifically being British. National pride in Britain will win you elections at this point. And that is all over Europe. We are at a point of Euroscepticism. That is the chord you need to be playing over and over again. That's your Abbey Road.
Mm-hmm.
That's your Enter Sandman. That's the song that takes you to the top of the charts. Brexit, national pride, Jeremy Corbyn's fucking evil, Theresa May is ineffective. Those are the chords you hit over and over and over and over. All over again. With Jeremy Corbyn, you destroy him on the fact that he is an anti-Semite, that he basically hangs out with Holocaust deniers.
Mm-hmm.
You destroy him on that. You continue to do that. You continue to go along those lines. You be pro-free speech, pro-rights, basically a John Locke-oriented politician. And he would win. And his popularity would soar. Because this I wouldn't even rape you thing is the worst that they can get on was the worst they could get on him up until he said, I don't give a fuck about your Shoah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you don't slide the ammunition across the table.
No.
I had to do something similar today. So last night, apparently I was one of many people who reported the Twitter user SJW Spider-Man because he was legitimately trying to get people to lose their jobs, which is against Twitter rules. You can't do that to people. It's considered targeted harassment.
Well, that and his account's existence was to harass. So
yeah, exactly. So I reported him, and so did a lot of other people. Now, when I found out he got suspended, and then I heard back from Twitter saying, yeah, your report had a factor in this, I jokingly referenced Starship Troopers, saying, I'm doing my part, are you? Obviously, I wasn't being serious, but it could be taken the wrong way. So I put context to it and said, I saw him doing X, Y, and Z. I reported it. I encourage anyone else to do the same because what he did was immoral.
And, against the fucking rules.
Yeah. I'm not asking Sargon to apologize for what he said. I'm saying he needs to word it better.
Yeah. Because remember, you got to focus on the normies. You got to hit the people that don't fucking know you. They don't know your platform. They're not going to go to your YouTube channel and see the things that you have to say. They're going to take the sound bites that are published by BBC, The Guardian, etc., and they're going to take that, and that's all they know. 90% of the people are not going to do research on their own. That's what they believe journalism is for.
Yeah, the question they are going to ask is, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
That will always be it.
Yeah.
And I can kind of tell that Carl's trying to be a bit Trumpian. I get it, because it's effective. Especially with a young male demographic. With that said, even Donald Trump wouldn't say some of that shit. Worst thing I heard him say is grab him by the pussy or I'd bomb the shit out of him. Alright. Brian Gilmartin says here, is it fair to say that organized religion is cancer, given some of your stances on certain churches like the Catholic Church? No. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is these institutions being unwilling to police themselves.
The problem is always people.
Yeah.
Religion is not the problem. It's people that are the problem.
Yeah, I think that one of the most poignant things that's ever been said in a theological text is C.S. Lewis is the problem of pain. The conclusion of the book, I hate to spoil it, is the problem of pain is human avarice. We do it to ourselves as the human race. And and that's the story of the Bible. We kind of suck. Yeah.
I mean, the Catholic Church also has the added benefit, I suppose you could say, of being so hierarchical that there is an element of power there. A clear element of power. Orthodox Church also to a degree, but you don't really see that in any of the other denominations. Certainly not in the Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a damn about the hierarchy there. So it's not an appeal to power or to maintain power by covering up whatever the fuck you have to cover up.
Yeah. One thing I've often said, I'm somewhat critical of evangelicals for going a little too far on it, but at the very least, sexual impropriety within the evangelical circles is not tolerated when it comes to leadership. If somebody who is a Sunday school teacher and he or she is going through a divorce and that person is cheating on the other person, the elders will say, look, we love you, we want you to keep coming here, but what you're doing is a sin. And we can't have that example set for our kids. And I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen justly. I've also seen it happen unjustly, because we actually mentioned that on the podcast. But at the very least, there's a level of self-policing and keeping yourself in check. Because the purpose is to live a better life that is reflective of Christ. And part of the church as a body, and this is the whole body of believers, is accountability to one another. That's the purpose of it. So, So no, I don't think that organized religion is cancer. Quite fond of it. I'm part of one. Me personally, I am a hermit. But that's me. You know, I prefer to be on the outside looking in. It fits me better. As of right now in my life. That might not be the choice. That might be what's going on in the future, though. It's hard telling how the next 5 years are going to play out. You know, next 5 years, you might see me, you know, doing part-time ministry for a church. Hard saying. Maybe I'll find the right congregation. Because I still go on occasion. It's just not that often. I think for me, it would just have to be there would have to be a church where the pastoral staff are men that I trust. Well, and women, but people that I trust, you know? And there is a church right now where, like, 2 of my closest friends and my mentor are all on the ministry board. I will probably start going a little bit more regularly than I used to. Because I trust them. I love them. They're my brothers, you know? So yeah, not cancer. My declaration.
No, not cancer.
Okay. Physics Hypernova wants to know, in honor of Star Wars Day, do we think that a constitutional republic could ever work at a galactic level? Maybe? I mean, a lot of the planets in Star Wars kind of self-govern.
Yeah.
So, makes sense to me. I'd rather have it than the fucking Empire.
But don't you want a safe and secure society?
No. I demand life, liberty, and the ability to kill sand people. Because fuck them.
You know, in a different context, you'd sound like an alt-righter.
Sand people are terrible. They're awful. They prey on Jawas, and Jawas are awesome. Sand people are the Palestinians of Star Wars.
No, by all means, keep going, keep going.
Well, the alt-right loves Palestine, so I don't quite fit that category.
Oh my god, here I am, like, oh my god. He's talking about sand people like they're Muslim. You said Jawas. I'm like, oh god, it gets worse.
I love the Jawas. The Jawas are great.
Oh my god.
They're short and they make cute little noises. How can you not love them? I support the right for a Jawa state.
So let me get this straight.
With a right of Jawa return. Jawa Israel.
They're gonna take back the Holy Planet from Hutt occupation.
Just now, I need fan art of a Jawa with a yarmulke on.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
An R2 unit that speaks only in Yiddish. I have to hit the button again.
Hit it.
Seriously though, I love Jawas.
Oh my god. You like Jawas, but you don't like Ewoks.
Exactly.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Alright. John Doe wants to know, if Facebook, Twitter, etc. are so against election meddling, why are they banning MEP candidates for the upcoming election? Good question. I think it kind of answered your own question. They're obviously not against it. Will Geary has our final question, and this is an interesting one because there's been a lot of back and forth. A lot of people are trying to get me to read Andrew Yang as if I haven't listened to him speak or so on and so forth, and heard him debate with people on his ideas. But anyway, what's the idea that Yang Gang is to spread around that Milton Friedman supported UBI? So with Friedman, I don't remember it being that simple. Let me look into what he had said specifically. Because with Friedman, I don't remember he... what was it that he did it? Because I remember he did something called negative income tax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was supposed to be to fight back against the welfare state.
Yeah. So it said here... It was basically like a merging, taking the welfare state and merging it into one thing that gave everybody something instead of just focusing on certain people.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, I don't think that it would work the way that he thinks that it would. And this is, so let me put this right now to all of you. Right now, we are facing a lot of recourse from the Obama administration, specifically a lot of people who are having a problem with purpose. And we are going to see that start to fade away the more people get to work and stay at work. Because work does give you a sense of purpose, because you're building towards something. You're saving money, you're providing for your family, you're seeing things get better for yourself gradually as time goes on. And I will freely admit that, from the time that I was jobless to these last few years when I've been working steady, I don't have a problem with sense of purpose at all. If we start giving into the fear-mongering, and if we think that UBI is going to just suddenly make all of that happen, people are just going to suddenly start doing arts and crafts with this income, $1,000 a month, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen. It doesn't happen for people who are already in the welfare state.
Mm-hmm.
They abuse it, or they just barely get by. They're not sitting around and actually producing anything. They're getting cheap beer, they're sitting at home and drinking, and wasting away.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing to suggest that what Andrew Yang says UBI is going to do for people will actually work. There's nothing to suggest it. And I still consider a lot of the talk about automation fear-mongering.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to think that the human labor is going to be substituted within the next 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the jobs report, how we theoretically have full employment.
Jobs that Obama was saying would never come back or have come back.
Yeah. UBI should not be considered until unemployment is somewhat normalized.
Yeah.
When that becomes a regular thing that people deal with. Maybe the highest threshold, or not the highest, the lowest threshold will be 1 in 4 people.
Yeah.
Without jobs.
Reaching Great Depression levels.
Yeah. Then we can start. I mean, because even then, welfare was not a thing until the Great Depression happened.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. That's why it was such a radical fucking thing.
And you got to keep in mind, the government created a bunch of miscellaneous jobs to try to get people to work, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because one thing a lot of people don't understand is that FDR was popular because he put in effort. But a lot of the stuff that he put in effort didn't have an effect. But he was popular because of that. And popular because he was very good with words. He was a phenomenal wordsmith.
Well, and he did a stuff weekly, he proposed too. Yeah, didn't even happen.
Yeah, he would do the one thing that partially historians have attributed to him constantly being reelected was the fact that he did a weekly radio show where he would address the nation and try to keep people's hopes up. Whenever I see people suggest these sorts of things, and I just think of we've on the podcast, Hawkeye and Civil War. The Futurist, everyone!
Mm-hmm.
He knows what's best for you, whether you like it or not. we start radically changing the way that our government works, and you're not going to end up with a utopia, ever. Just because Andrew Yang is not a crazy communist doesn't mean he's not a socialist. Utopia is, and I'm quoting Christopher Hitchens here. I'm sorry, Peter Hitchens. Utopia is only reached across a sea of blood, and you never get there. UBI would have massive tax hikes on the people that are working, meaning that you would take away incentive to work at a high level, even for super intelligent people. And here's the thing. I have read the bell curve. Every fucking page of it. I am in the process of reading... What is the name of the book? It's by Charles Murray. I need to get back into it. It's Coming Apart, where he talks about issues like this. Charles Murray, somebody who is pro-UBI. I've listened to Sam Harris talk about these sorts of things. So it's not like and I would ask you in the audience, please give me the benefit of the doubt when I discuss these topics that I'm a well-read individual. I would like to think that I speak like one. We are not there.
No, we're not. We're not. To me, UBI, talking about it right now, is trying to normalize, or at least get a foot in the door for wealth redistribution. That's basically what's meant by this economic inequality anyway.
Yeah. And I know what the fear comes from. The fear comes from the fact that not the fact, there's no evidence, but the theory, not even the theory, the hypothesis that there is a cognitive elite is the way that that Murray and Herrnstein phrased it in the bell curve. Cognitive elite. That there is a group of people, a certain percentage of people in the world that carry an IQ of 120 or more that will likely hold, or at least they theorize will hold, the major job positions in the world in the future. That is the hypothesis because of the current trends. Now, that's one hypothesis. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come to pass. And the funny thing about when the internet discovered the cognitive elite phrase, everybody thought they were in it. Ugh, dear God, people. But anyway, no, the fear is so strange to me. Because I'm seeing libertarians abandon libertarianism over something that hasn't even happened. So, yeah, I don't agree with Friedman. I don't. And I have respect for Milton Friedman in the same way that I have respect for Sam Harris, in the same way that I have respect for Charles Murray. But I think they're wrong. I have no reason to think that we are going to enter that point, that period at all. I think there's always going to be, inevitably low skill labor to some degree. But what that low skill labor is going to look like is going to be different 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. It wouldn't surprise me if the truck driver becomes less emphasized, but the Uber driver, the ride share booms even more so. It's become a cottage industry in and of itself. And it's not, and it didn't get rid of the taxi cab. It basically revolutionized the taxi cab. Because sometimes that's just what happens, is something just enters a different form. In the same way, I have no reason to think that Teslas and hybrids are going to, change the way that, we look at cars right now. But 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road, maybe. Maybe not. We'll have to see how things work. And even then, it may not change a lot of things. Things that might just shift in a way. So, we're not there yet, is the one thing that I constantly tell people. So we're not there yet. So there's no reason to think we're going to. You're freaking yourself out. So, hopefully that answers the question. Well, that is the last question, oddly enough. I need to go switch over my laundry.
Okay.
So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hatman, any final words?
Eat your vegetables.
Indeed. My name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla.
And I'm Alex Baldwin. Ferret, man, I don't know.
We'll see you guys next week. Dave's
Dave's
fault.
fault.